I think the first thing I think about is where I'm gonna put the guitar amps. Whether it's gonna be like Vance Powell style, like you mentioned him earlier, when you talked with him too, he discussed about having the guitar amps. It's like an old Glyn Johns trick where you line the guitar amps or the bass amps up with the kick drum, and then all parallel with each other, and have baffles in between them. And then if the band is really tight and they're really well rehearsed, and the guitar amps aren't crazy loud, like they don't have to be on 11. They have to almost be like you have to almost mix them in the room a little bit, and then with a little bit of baffling, you can have everybody in the same room. And then if you're doing it like that, you almost don't even need headphones for anybody besides the singer. Or I've even done it once or twice with a wedge just in front of the singer. And then the way have them far enough away from the drums or at an angle for the drums with the null point where it's not going to get into the drummers. But yeah, that's the first thing I'm thinking about is where I'm going to put where I'm going to have the guitars. And usually it's either if it's a quieter act or quieter more something more like R&B or country or folkier kind of. In the last couple of years, I've done quite a few country or Americana kind of more style recordings where there's a pedal steel and a couple acoustics, an electric guitar, and then the drums are usually quieter in those instances, right? Where it's not John Bonham big whacking style drums. So having the guitar amps in the room, aligning up with the kick drum with those big baffles in between, and everybody being able to look at each other, I find works great. But for the stuff that's a little bit louder, and if you maybe want to redo something after, if you're just going to get bed tracks, or if one of the guitar players makes a mistake or something, we'll want to put the guitars in another room. So more common is we'll have it so that we have the live setup is you've got drums in the main room, and then bass will be DI'd, and the guitars will be off in a separate isolation room in the vocal booth, where you could have, and then if there's any, either guitar player makes a mistake or wants to do a punch in or something, we can fix that and it's not bleeding into the drums, and you're not so dependent on everybody nailing it on that one take. But I still like to get it where it's, try to get it to be the take for the bed tracks, and if there is overdubs, to try to keep it to be just guitar solos.
You have a very purist affinity for live recording and just the energy of like the band in the room. That seems to be one of the things that you love.
Yeah, and if that's what the music calls for, if it is a band, and if that's the sound or their reference tracks or what they say that they want to be, it's kind of, I find it really hard to layer everything on top of each other one at a time to a click track and have it sound like that sound. You're referencing, if somebody's referencing a band, something that was recorded in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or even 90s that was with real musicians or real session musicians, it's not going to feel the same as something that's completely quantized, done one on top of each other. But then I also love working like that too, where you go something a little bit more outside the box, where you can still get bed tracks down with maybe a bass player and a drummer, and then have everybody play together, and then strip everything down to just the drums and start from scratch and layer everything over on top of it again to get that tightness and that really polished sounding kind of 90s, 2000s kind of rock